Welcome back to the August Diaries. Today I have my friend and interior designer, Allie Watson of 1807 Design. Her designs are far from precious. I love that she prioritizes like a laid back vibe and really wants people to like actually live in a beautiful space without it being too kind of like styled. And she was also an art director on television, notably for Love It or List It. So I brought her in to help kind of update our home, which is my childhood home. We are so lucky to be living here now, and it's one of my favorite spaces. It's a very kind of West Coast feel, very like warm, a lot of wood, and so I really wanted to update it, make it feel more modern while still maintaining the kind of warmth and West Coast vibe. Today we're going to talk all about the kitchen, and these are the very best affordable ways to update your kitchen without kind of having to do a full, very expensive renovation.
When we first started talking about Jill's kitchen, it definitely felt super disjointed from kind of your style, and it just felt really dated. It had old existing super yellowy orange cabinets, which just wasn't really Jill's vibe, and countertop was a little bit dated. So there was definitely some things that we wanted to neutralize in the space. It's such a good layout and just functional kitchen. It has a lot of like great bones. So we figured that it would be great to maintain the cabinets, but just find a way to basically make it a bit more modern and neutralize the space.
I mean, there's a lot of really beautiful wood in the space, but it just needed some updating. Like the finish was very yellowy, orangey. So Allie recommended actually painting the cabinetry because we decided that we weren't in the position to do a huge kitchen reno at this point. We brought in Kitchen Makeovers, and then we kind of did a few other things to really update the space. And I honestly think that it feels like a completely different room.
And we were lucky because the cabinets that you had, they were good quality. And I think that's the biggest thing about cost saving in a renovation is being actually able to utilize and maintain what you already have. So we were lucky that the cabinets, they were functional, and the profile of the cabinet was still quite contemporary.
The first point that we want to talk about is painting all of the cabinetry in your kitchen.
We weren't huge fans of the existing countertop. It was darker green. The color was nice, but it just was a little bit dated. And so rather than making it more of a feature, we wanted to create more of a cohesive color palette so that it kind of blended with and worked with the existing countertop rather than accentuating it. So that's where a darker color kind of helped with that, to maybe not so much hide it, but at least didn't make it like the show-stopping piece of the kitchen.
Minimize it. Yeah. For those who are unfamiliar, Kitchen Makeover has been around for quite a few years now. They are a Vancouver-based, women-owned, and very much women-led company. They have this like very streamlined process where you can kind of completely redo the cabinetry, and there's a few other things that they do. They've kind of branched out from just painting cabinetry. They basically just take care of everything for you and you don't have to worry about it. There's very minimal time where you can't use your kitchen. I think it's only like 2 days. Okay, so we are at, I guess technically end of day 2. This is day 1 in kind of the 3-day install. So I'll show you what it looks like. They basically spent like probably a good 6 hours doing this today. Very methodically and precisely, which I really appreciate. This will be painted, this. So obviously the kitchen is unusable right now, but they've basically taped anything and everything that will not be painted. All of this wood is being painted. None of the inside of the drawers and the cabinets, but all of this part will be painted so that when you open the door, it doesn't look weird. The windows, the dishwasher, the sink, and then all of this will be painted too. So yeah, it looks kind of like a Dexter site.
The finish also, that they use, because a lot of concern, I think, usually when you think about painting your cabinets is thinking like, is it actually going to be durable?
Yeah.
And Kitchen Makeovers does a different process where the finish actually is a super durable paint finish.
It's a durable 2-component polyurethane. So the finish doesn't look like a wood cabinet that's been painted. It just looks like you had new cabinetry installed. And then it's also really durable. Obviously, like, you use your kitchen a lot. There's like water and food and everything. So you want to make sure that all of that is going to last you for a while if you're going to be investing in this. I was surprised by how much of an impact it really made. You can see by the before and after photos that it's actually crazy. They did such a good job. The people who came and worked on it were just so lovely and wonderful to work with, and we are incredibly happy with how it turned out. So the second thing that we did was to change out the island butcher block. Again, this was Allie's suggestion. The existing countertop just was like kind of a dated shape, and
it like bowed out, and it was like a weird curve, and it just didn't really suit what we were going for. It made sense to just kind of square it off, make it a little bit more contemporary, streamline it a little bit, and change the shape.
The whole point was to really try and make the kitchen seem a lot more cohesive. Like, we worked hard on the concept to kind of make sure that all of the colors and all of the elements felt more cohesive. So the next thing that we did was to update the handles and the hardware, which kind of comes with redoing the cabinetry. We had, I think, fairly simple, but like black, kind of heavy handles. We went with gold to kind of lighten up the feel and to add a bit of contrast to the space.
It's definitely a really easy way to update your kitchen. It's probably one of the easiest ways. We were lucky because with Kitchen Makeovers, we could kind of customize, and we had a little bit more flexibility with the location of the hardware, but there's so much hardware available on the market now. It's easy to change.
So the other thing that we did with Kitchen Makeover was to change out the glass on the upper cabinet. Originally, it was like a dated frosted glass. So Allie recommended doing reeded glass. And I am like absolutely thrilled with how I could not be happier with how it turned out. It looks so modern and cool, and it like adds this very like textural element.
Still kind of provides you with that privacy that you need to just
like, you can kind of see the cups behind, but like you can't see everything, and so it's really nice to have that lighter feel in the kitchen as well. Update the faucet. So this was a kind of interesting way to add some different finishes into the space, which I thought was really cool. Like, I originally probably would have gone with a black faucet, but we worked with Kohler on this, and they have some like really beautiful kind of like focal pieces, and the finishes are just like amazing. And I also really loved that with the one that we got, there's like a bit of black in there, but it kind of still all feels very cohesive.
It kind of had a little bit of like an industrial, like chef's kitchen kind of feel. And
I love that.
With how big your kitchen is, I think it just creates another focal point, like another moment in the space that shines really nicely. I think gone are the days that everything has to be matchy-matchy and everything has to be perfect, because it's not realistic to how we live. And I think having a mixture of different finishes, like metals and woods, it actually adds to a more comfy and well-lived, well-rounded space. So I think the fact that the faucet and the hardware and maybe some decorative elements, like they don't match, they're all different kind of finishes, and I think it helps to warm the space and just make it feel more lived in. We also decided to do the beverage faucet in black just because we wanted like a little bit of contrast and didn't want to go gold kind of like all the way. It felt like a little bit too much. But ultimately, like, we have a brass faucet with a black faucet and a silver sink. And I think that looks great. So now we can talk about lighting, which is also quite an easy way to update your space. Yeah, definitely. For now, we actually decided to keep the lighting that we have, knowing that we will probably update it in the future. But it's very simple.
and we kind of liked that it didn't detract from the glass and the open shelving in the back of the kitchen.
It's minimal and it just works within the space. I think the fact too that although you have such a large kitchen, somehow the smaller scale of the lights really work. When we were thinking of the priorities of what we wanted to change, we both thought that that was a way that we could maybe save a bit of money because we liked the style, but changing lighting is super easy in terms of just there's so much on the market now available, and it's one way to definitely update or add another piece of jewelry to the space.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what people forget about is even just lighting temperature. Having a light that's like super yellow or orange or super warm, which is going to be like a lower Kelvin, it actually doesn't light the space properly, and it can actually make a space feel quite dated.
Okay.
So having a higher or a more around the 3,000, 3,500.
I was gonna ask if there's like so like 3,000, 3,500 is a good.
It's kind of a good range to just updating lighting in your home. You're kind of getting closer to that daylight feel. As you start getting higher and higher, you're gonna start getting that cooler tone of light.
Right.
So being able to neutralize the space with light actually also helps it feel a lot more contemporary or a lot more updated.
With updating the island, we ultimately decided to update the counter stools.
The counter stools, so with your island, obviously being in the middle of the kitchen and like very visible from the dining room and the living room, we created a bit more of a focal point with it. Changing the butcher block, creating this like nice midpoint in the kitchen. It has to be functional, so we wanted to add the stools in there to provide another place to sit. I think we wanted to emphasize just what does the back look like and what does it look like as a whole piece of furniture.
Yeah, like I wanted to go with black because I was like, oh, whatever, like who cares? And then we ended up going with this beautiful sand color that Andrew actually recommended, but I love them so much. Like I'm so happy with how they turned out. Those ones are from Parliament, as is most of the furniture in our house, and I really like that they're quite durable and that you can kind of just like wipe them down. Like at one point we were thinking about doing a fabric chair, which is ultimately like beautiful, but just not very realistic. The last way to kind of update your kitchen is to do some functional styling. And this was something that I always really liked about Ali's philosophy, was that like you want things to look beautiful, but you also want to be able to like actually live in your space in your house without worrying about things getting dirty and messed up. So the functional styling aspect was really cool, and we had a lot of fun adding like texture and a little bit of color to the kitchen with it. You know, I don't love color that much, but having the little bits of like reds and kind of the fruit to add color was really nice.
We utilize things like bowls where it looks beautiful, but you're still actually able to use it. The open shelves are actually functional because you're putting pottery and you're putting glassware that you already have and that need a home anyway. It's just done in a bit more of a stylized way, adding in some features like some artwork that just helps soften the space, break it up a little bit. It's a functional way to decorate.
So we used a lot of vintage pieces and then a few pieces from Parliament, and then just kind of anything that we had as well. We still maintained like a pretty clean look, but wanted it to feel very like homey and real and not too stylized.
Yeah, not too like formal and stuffy.
Yeah.
You have so much color on the exterior. You have these big, beautiful windows that you didn't really need a lot of stuff. You didn't really need a lot of styling and decor.
Yeah.
I mean, doing enough that it looks like we talked about a little bit more lived in, but also not like absolutely maxing it out with like stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Another way that we added in some styling was just utilizing, again, the exterior. There was a lot of beautiful branches that we found, lots of florals, just things that can be changed over time, changed throughout the season. So adding pops of color was super easy with floral arrangements.
And like food, you know, we have pears as well, which Lou has already eaten most of them, but they're like a very beautiful way to add color that's like natural.
Yeah.
But also realistic.
And utilizing the seasons. So as food and foliage and flowers change, it's a nice way to add in corresponding color throughout the season.
I'm so happy to have Ali on the channel. I think that she has so much information about how to do like small updates or things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, that I think was always really helpful for me. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.